Now hitting the third game in the series, F.E.A.R, which stands for First Encounter Assault Recon, goes well beyond its original job description in attempting to provide further first-person thrills and chills with its horror-shooter hybrid gameplay. Does it succeed in its mission? Or is it time for this franchise to give up the ghost? After destroying an entire city in an attempt to stop the supernatural rampage of the tortured F.E.A.R poster girl Alma Wade, Point Man, the original game's protagonist, returns to the scene of the crime to team up with his telepathic cannibal brother Fettel, who has gone from primary antagonist to second playable character. Their mission is to stop Alma from giving birth to a new and unimaginably horrible threat. This convoluted setup will be of some interest to deeply invested fans, but while it provides the clear objective of finding and stopping Alma, it offers only a vague and messy idea of the big picture that's not worth puzzling over. The takeaway is that if someone shoots at you, you shoot back. And just about everyone shoots at you. Fighting your way through F.E.A.R 3's campaign doesn't come with many surprises. It's a linear run, frequently closing off paths behind you to ensure that you keep moving forward through a succession of focused, challenging firefights. You'll encounter many quiet moments between the action, which the game often uses as an opportunity to distort the audio and video in ways intended to freak you out. Other quiet moments send you on a frustrating hunt for the correct ladder or door to move forward, revealing shortcomings in level design. Other than going out of its way to create an atmosphere, the campaign is completely standard with breaks to pilot a powerful mech suit, carefully placed as an unimaginative but effective way to stave off the feeling of slog. It's a bit less of a theme park ride than other contemporary shooters, with a design sensibility that focuses on slow-motion shooting and slide kicks. Once you play through a level as Point Man, you can go through it again as Fettel, and since he's an infinitely more interesting character to play, there's a decent incentive to do so. Multiplayer splits its efforts between cooperative and competitive modes, with a modest 4-player limit. In Contractions mode, players work together to fight off waves of enemies, repair barriers, and retrieve weapon crates. It's a decent yet unremarkable take on a common idea. The more creative alternative is the colorfully titled Fucking Run, which has players fighting through a gauntlet of enemies while fleeing an annihilating wall of death. While it's novel, it's not very dynamic. Competitive multiplayer makes more of an effort to incorporate the game's supernatural elements by including specters and a possession mechanic that lets players take control of computer-controlled grunts.
There is strength in this one.
Soul King is an overly chaotic scramble to collect and hold souls without getting offed. While in Soul Survivor, one player starts as a specter who has to take down his would-be teammates in order to score points while they fight through AI hordes and scrounge for ammo. These modes are interesting and have a unique character despite feeling slightly uneven. It's questionable as to whether they can sustain an active community, but they're certainly worth checking out. Like other games in the series, F.E.A.R 3 sees Point Man competently executing standard first-person shooting, characterized by slow-mo gun battling against heavily armored enemies. The arsenal is standard issue, with slightly less common options like a scoped burst-firing assault rifle and an ineffective but amusing beam weapon. Even with all the paranormal activity going on around you, standard FPS practices and procedures definitely apply. The game's take on the first-person cover system lets you effectively stick to obstacles and peek out to fire. Things work very differently when you're playing as Fettel, who's available for co-op play when you've cleared a level as Point Man. Fettel's more interesting brand of gameplay lets you fling ghostly projectiles, take over enemies' bodies, and do other various nasty things. Working together with another player substantially cuts down the game's difficulty and makes the experience a bit more fun, with some welcome opportunities for teamwork. Regardless of how you're playing, the basic action in F.E.A.R 3 is competent and definitely provides a challenge. The game strangely emphasizes the more mundane elements of your performance by providing an extensive list of mini-objectives. As you accrue points in single-player and multiplayer modes, you level up your character and earn gradual, incremental bonuses that offer almost no noticeable impact on how you play the game. It's strange to see these meta-mechanics crop up with no explanation in an atmospheric, story-driven shooter. There's really nothing particularly spooky about the inane mini-objective of picking up ammo off the ground 60 times. As the series ages, F.E.A.R is moving further from the cutting edge of graphical prowess. Cutscenes and special effects that relate to the game's horror and gore elements are a bit less special than they once were. Despite this, the game still retains an acceptable level of detail in most cases and goes out of its way to present diversity with its predominantly urban environments. Sound design is a big part of the atmospheric manipulation. There are a lot of distorted and shocking sounds that add to the unnerving atmosphere, though the game sometimes goes overboard in this regard. You'll also notice that enemies are excessively chatty and repetitive, although that's easy enough to remedy. With a number of these minor flaws, F.E.A.R 3 feels a bit like a B-level production, but the illusion is good enough to remain enjoyable. While the horror shooter concept still works, the latest installment of F.E.A.R has evolved in ways that are mostly superficial. An increasingly twisted story and an unneeded mini-achievement system both feel as if they're reaching, and neither element improves the basic gameplay.